Welcome to Courtsiders. I'm your host, Eric. With me, I have Dimitri.
Yo, what's up, guys? Why are you making that voice, man?
We'll change it up a little bit. Okay, what's up, folks? So, for today, we'll be talking about the big thing that's going on Twitter right now. It's LaMarcus Aldridge, his divorce with the San Antonio Spurs, and Dimitri has some trades ready.
Yeah, well, I've got one trade ready, but I think a reunion with the Portland Trailblazers would be really cool. I think if you send Zach Collins and you send Rodney Hood and you send Enes Kanter to the San Antonio Spurs, you could receive LaMarcus Aldridge and Drew Eubanks on the Trailblazers. I think the trade makes a lot of sense because for the Trailblazers, I mean, Hood's been pretty terrible. He's got like pretty much negative value at this point. He's got 36, 29, 62 splits this year. Just been kind of awful coming back from injury. And Kanter wouldn't be getting any minutes realistically with LaMarcus and Nurkic when he comes back there, right? So he'd be out of the rotation. So you can put those guys, they wouldn't have much value on this team in this situation. So they're used as salary filler. And then obviously the attraction of the trade for the Spurs and sort of even the Blazers would be Collins, because on the Blazers side, you don't have to pay Collins. This allows them to focus on re-signing Gary Trent Jr. And they get a cheap replacement in Drew Eubanks. Even though he's like 50% of the player as Zach Collins was, at least they have that. It's a little bit more depth. Whereas Collins, likely for the Spurs side, is the best player from this trade in 3 to 5 years, assuming injuries don't derail his career completely. He's he would be a perfect fit with their young core, and he can be on their young core's timeline, which is really important. As a big stretch forward, they have Keldon Johnson and Devin Vassell and DeMar DeRozan, who are all 6'6", 6'5", trying to play that role. So having some size at the 4 next to Jakob Poeltl would allow them some interesting lineups. And I trust Pop, to bring back a big guy like that. So I think Collins would be really interesting on the Spurs long term. And I think since the Trailblazers want to push now and retain some flexibility, supporting guys, I think it makes sense for the Trailblazers as well.
Yeah, I totally think that the reunion with the Trailblazers is I think that's a good story right there, right?
Yeah, I think it would be a good way to, I don't know if they'll win a chip, but for them to all push a chip for a chip together with Carmelo Anthony and, CJ and Dame, and it would be some fun. It would be some fun for sure. And he fills kind of a need that the Trailblazers have right now. So
yeah, and for Carmelo Anthony, he's having a great year. It almost feels like this might be the swan song for Carmelo Anthony. Honesty.
Yeah. This might be it for him. There's definitely been some drop-off this year, but he's still been pretty good.
He's had some great performances, and it seems like he's putting in a lot of effort on both ends. I feel like this is the most energy he's had in a long time. And sometimes, there's a big drop-off after that year. You see it often. So I hope not, but, he's having a great year. I think I'll touch on that point that you had with LaMarcus Aldridge. It'd be really interesting to see, like CJ come back, Dame be there. You still have Carmelo, and then you add Aldridge. It's kind of like an old school team, right? They do lose a little bit of depth if they get rid of Kanter, which is I think that would be a big blow for Portland, because he does bring like some toughness to that team.
That would be the biggest lineup concern, yeah. But I mean, like the biggest thing there is if you have Aldridge and Nurkic coming back from his injury, I just don't know how many minutes there would be. And Giles, keep in mind he's injured. Right. So when all those guys come back, I don't know how many minutes there would be for Kanter, period.
Yeah.
Also, they're getting Eubanks, which can give them minutes to the 4-5. So
no pun intended, but the Portland Trailblazers had tough breaks. They've had some bad breaks this year, and it's crazy. It happens every year to Portland. I don't know if it is like their conditioning team, if it's their nutritional team, but there tends to be a lot of injuries in Portland.
Yeah, Portland hasn't had the best luck for sure. I just hope that by the time the playoffs come, Cullum and Nurk can be fully healthy, and they can get maybe LaMarcus to come in and help their team for a little boost at the deadline, because that's been teased for a while. And I just hope that they can win a round and make some fun, make some noise.
What other teams do you expect to be sniffing around LaMarcus Aldridge? Because the way I see it, the San Antonio Spurs are not going to send him to a team that's not contending.
Yeah, and I don't know if they're going to want to send him somewhere in the same conference. I've seen the Mavs, but I just don't know if they want to send him to the Mavs necessarily, because Pop is so competitive, and they're like a couple games from each other in the standings. So
Also in the same state.
Yeah, I get like the logistical, like they have the assets to perfectly do it with the salaries, but I just don't know if Pop's that kind of guy where he'd send some help to Dallas.
Yeah, that's true.
At this
But what
point in
happens
the
if they send
season.
him like a good package? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if the Mavericks have a better asset to offer than if the Trailblazers were to offer Collins, because I don't think he's worth like Brunson. Absolutely not.
No, what happens if they're like James Johnson and maybe like one of their.
I think Tyrell Terry's too good.
I haven't really seen Tyrell Terry this year perform a lot, so I can't even. Yeah. Also, I don't think you're going to give up on a prospect that hasn't had too many minutes, right?
Yeah, Josh Green's been pretty awful in the G League, but I don't think they'd give it up on him this early either. Trey Burke's too good to let go of right now. Jalen Brunson, again, we said, is too good to let go of.
Yeah.
I just don't know the asset that. Because for the Trailblazers, the thinking is like they don't want to take Collins right now, because of the injury concerns. That's why they'd be willing to let him go. I just don't know if there's a prospect like that on Dallas, as well as, like I said, the competitive thing with Pop, right? So
yeah, that's true. I think if they were like, hey, look, James Johnson and Josh Green, they would do it.
Oh yeah, I mean for sure. I just don't know if like. Josh Green has been awful so far. Like I said, he was pretty bad in the G League for somebody who was supposed to be a 3-point shooter. I think his 3-point percentage was in the teens or 20s. So he was really not great. And I mean, we'll see how he develops. But if they were willing to give up on a prospect, I feel like it would be him. But it sounds crazy giving up on Josh Green this early. So I don't think the Mavericks would do it. As well as like I have my doubts from the Spurs side as well. Maybe I've seen some people suggesting that maybe the Celtics take him in their trade exception, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why the Celtics would necessarily do that because I don't feel like he fits a need for them that much.
I mean, the Celtics, they just need scoring in general, I think. They definitely need some scoring off the bench.
I feel like some wing depth, yeah. Especially from the wings, because like after Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they really don't have anybody.
Do you think the Celtics would sniff around LaMarcus Aldridge? What do you think about that?
I think they could, but they have to send out like a good amount of salary as well. They'd have to send out like $9 million, I think, clear out $9 million. So
$9 million?
I believe so, around that, like $8-9 million. So I mean, we'd see what they have to send out. If it's just like Tristan Thompson or something, maybe the deal gets done.
Okay, it is. Can we just like think about this? That the Celtics have had so many picks over the years, right? Especially with that whole, stealing from, not stealing, but basically just destroying the Nets in that trade. And it's almost like they don't have enough assets anymore to trade for players. It's crazy.
Yeah, like they don't have enough assets to make the moves they want to make, so they're settling on their plan B right now, which we'll talk about later. But plan A was definitely Jeremy Grant or Nikola Vucevic. Don't get it twisted. Just Ainge won't pony up those assets. So we know who they're coming for. It's been widely reported at this point.
So we're transitioning into our second subject, which is Harrison Barnes to the Boston Celtics, which has been rumored to be basically done or to happen in the future for how many weeks now?
Man, it's been ages this has been talked about. I mean, I found tweets from people talking with me about it from like December, I think. Honestly, December 2020. Like it's been like 3 months. Like the people have been since the exception was made and Gordon left that team. We knew that the Kings are probably going to be tanking this season. They're keeping Walton. And we know that the Celtics lost to Gordon, that presence of Gordon Hayward, that dual forward presence. So it just made a lot of sense logistically. And I'm not surprised it's coming together at this point.
Yeah, and for the Celtics, they're in I wouldn't say they're in dire need of Harrison Barnes, but they definitely could use a player like him right now, right?
They certainly could. I mean, a lot of people said, I saw somebody compare this to when they switched from Kyrie to Kemba, where it was like less talented, but more easy to work with. Again, Hayward is hard to work with for different reasons. And I don't think Kyrie was like wrong in why he was, but I think with Tatum and with Jalen, who wanted that many shots, it was hard to work with. You know what I mean? Like
I
It
think
was just, and it's not even from just Kyrie's end, like just from Tatum and Jaylen Brown just growing into their roles and having Kerry Rozier on that team. There was just too many people that wanted shots. Like it was just
yeah,
kind of an all around thing.
I think there is also a huge cultural difference between Kyrie Irving and the Boston Celtics and that surrounding area, I think.
Yeah, and then I think eventually with the culture that the new Celtics players had, and it eventually clashed with Gordon Hayward's culture. We'll call it that. And I think as a cultural fit now, the way the Celtics have moved, I think Harrison Barnes makes a lot more sense. He may not be as talented of a player, and I feel like I'm repeating myself on the Kyrie Kemba stuff, but technically he would be a better locker room fit.
Yeah, I just want to know one question. What does
Yeah.
Gumby mean to you?
No, I like Kyrie. I think he's
No.
but obviously for very different reasons. Very different reasons. Kyrie and Gordon Hayward were both quote by this Boston, and I'm not saying this is me saying this, but this is more like the Boston Celtics perspective of it. They always were claiming that these two were hard to work with, and then they're just replacing them with guys that in Kyrie and Barnes who are less talented but easier to work with.
I think Boston fans they hold a grudge like no other. I think that's why. And I think they never got the bad taste from their mouth from that first play. It was Kyrie Irving alley-oop to Gordon Hayward, and he breaks his ankle. So from that point on, it's both of them. They're both in the same play. So and they're both gone. You don't think that's a coincidence? I don't really believe in coincidences, but I think the visual impact of that play stained the Boston Celtics fans, right? It's stained in their memories, and they blamed everything on both of those players after that. Even though the team itself that season was particularly good, right?
Yeah.
So it's a weird thing that happens, especially that early in the season. Imagine put yourself in their shoes and you're watching a Sacramento Kings game, right? And Halliburton throws up an alley-oop to Fox, and Fox just like breaks his ankle, right? Like completely just destroys it, right? First game of the season. Wouldn't you be like kind of depends on the fan as well, right? So I just feel like they just had that in their sights the whole time. That play. They kind of just it was like a symbolism of what that whole relationship was, right? For Boston. And it just never worked out from the get go. Which is not to say like it was the player's fault. I think it's just terrible situational kind of bad luck, right? He just lands on his foot wrong. It goes, it completely derailed that whole relationship. And I think Gordon Hayward.
He really got it off on the wrong foot.
I think Gordon. Oh, dude, come on! You gotta use that pun. Come on, Maron.
I had to go for it.
Dude, but yeah, I mean that's the thing.
I wanted to see if you'd stop or you'd keep going. To be honest.
No, that was funny. It's too funny. But Gordon Hayward, I think himself wanted to just start brand new, and I think that's why he just didn't want to come back to the Boston Celtics, even though the environment kind of fit who he was, So it was almost like I want to, move out west and start a new life, like a nomad or something. So he just wanted to, go somewhere else. And actually, it's been working out, right? So with Harrison Barnes, he's coming into a situation where, Tatum is there, Brown's there, Smart's there, Stevens is there. They have a good foundation. It seems like there's a lot of cracks this year in that defensive foundation. It could be because of Marcus Smart not being there, but it could be just the lack of depth. Kind of takes away from those starters because they have to work that much more to bring a lead or stuff like that. It's almost like you put a lot of pressure on the starters because you know that the bench can't hold that lead, right? And also, it's just like some players. I don't know if it's actually like Jeff Teague. I don't know if that's working. I've seen Boston Celtics fans just go crazy on Jeff Teague.
They've said he's been a little bit better recently. But yeah, no, it's been largely disappointment in Jeff Teague land as far as Boston is concerned.
But the good thing is that double P is working, Peyton.
Yeah, Speedy PP.
Speedy PP. I call him double P.
I think Celtics fans are calling him Speedy PP or like Fast PP or something like that. That's what I heard.
Fast PP. Damn.
Yeah. What a nickname, right?
I mean, to have the initials PP, I don't know what his
I like Speedy
middle
PP.
his middle name is, but yeah, it could be Pip, which makes sense too.
Paul.
If the middle name's like Isaac, it could be like Pip, you know, or Pap, or Oswald Pop, you know,
Is that his
possibilities.
actual middle name?
No, I have no idea what his middle name, but I'm just kind of like shouting out like what initials work, because if you have like Pip, that'd be funny, like Pop, Pap.
His middle name is Michael.
Ah, damn, that ruins it all, man. Go, I needed a vowel, dude.
Yeah, his nickname is Fast PP. Go look it up on his
Really?
fast.
Fast
Yes,
PP. Jeez, that's such
Fast
a bad
PP.
name. I call him Double P because that sounds cool.
No, I'm calling him Fast PP.
So yeah, what do you think Harrison Barnes is going to take to the Celtics? And also, is Danny Ainge going to even do this, or will he be derailed because of the LaMarcus Aldridge kind of like news?
I don't think he'll be derailed because of the LaMarcus Aldridge news. I don't think I mean, it's been said that he wants uh, a big guy who can play and defend, which LaMarcus can't do. Both forward positions, which LaMarcus really can't do, and can shoot really well.
You don't think that he's a little bit more fluid than Tristan Thompson? You know, on that.
Dude, he's been pretty poor this year, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
LaMarcus, I don't know if he's worth the trade exception. I honestly think Barnes might be better at this point. Um,
Well, we're on the same page that Danny Ainge has to use this trade exception, right? You have to use it.
I mean, he might wait till the off season. There's more options in the off season,
Yep.
but they'd be in
I
a
mean,
super big time crunch because it'd be like expiring soon.
I mean, I think he has to use it.
They also have to like do something about their season, so maybe
Yeah, it's almost like if he doesn't use it, man.
he could get fired. Well, no, I don't
Yeah,
think he could get
I
fired.
don't know if he, I don't know
Not
if he's
yet.
gonna, I don't know if he's gonna get let go. But what happens if they get bounced in like the first round?
Yeah, I mean that's always a concern for sure.
Yeah, Harrison Barnes. Basically the trade right now, supposedly, allegedly, is Harrison Barnes for Aaron Naismith and a first round pick.
Yeah, it would be their 2021 first too, because I mean, realistically, if you look at how frustrated Bagley is already, and I don't want Fox to start getting frustrated as well, so I don't think we can wait like a full year next year, not have the guy, and then like get him, and in year one is 2022, and like I don't think we have that much time to wait. I think we're going to want to see progress and have guys to show for what we traded for next year at the very least. So I think it needs to be a 2021 first. That's been like generally pretty established between Celtics and Kings fans. Also, Celtics fans don't want to be giving firsts too far in the future, anyways. So, I mean, I think it makes sense for both sides to be the 21 first. But yeah, Aaron Nesmith and the 21 first would be. But I think what's been generally said on the Kings side is that that offer isn't necessarily appealing enough to them. They want a little bit more. So I think maybe you could. I've seen people saying to include a second young player like Grant Williams in the trade, but not, like obviously you wouldn't get like a player like Robert Williams. I think Robert Williams is generally off the table. But perhaps like Aaron Nesmith and Grant Williams, or Aaron Nesmith and their 21 first and second, or Aaron Nesmith and yet the draft rights to Yam Madar, and then their 21 first, something like that might push it over the edge for Sacramento. But yeah, I know it's definitely going to be Aaron Nesmith and a 21 first at a minimum.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I mean, I could see the. I mean, I don't know how management is in Sacramento right now. Like, I can't speak for myself, but for myself, I know the position the Celtics are in and the position I'm in, right? I'm in a position where I'm probably going to, be in the lottery, top 5 pick, at least. If I'm the Sacramento Kings, I'm like, all right, Naismith first. And definitely, I think I would try to grab, like, maybe some young prospect that they haven't had a good sample size from, and which you could develop, right? And Yamadar makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, I think Yamadar. I think the best, like the most we would get from a trade is like pick swapping our second and getting Yam, but I don't think we'd get all that and the Celtics picks and Nesmith. There's no way. But if we could get Nesmith, the draft rights to Yamadar, and that first, that'd be great because Yamadar is like a defensive playmaking point guard. He's pretty much exactly what we need as a backup coming in next year, and he's already kind of expressed displeasure that Boston decided to keep him. He thought he was good enough to come over last year, if you read articles about it. So I think it makes sense for him to move on as well. He could sign a 4-year contract here in Sacramento, which is longer than you'd have. I think you'd have 1 or 2 years on Grant Williams, and you'd have 2 years on Romeo Langford. So it's a lot more team control for the Kings as well, because they'd be able to sign him to a fresh rookie contract as soon as he comes over. So yeah, I think if they could get the rights to Yamadar and Aaron Nesmith, because he's not going to be doing anything for the Celtics this year anyways.
Yeah, I could also see them like being like, hey, you want to throw in Javonte Green, which the Celtics would, and I think it's almost like you don't really have a position to lose because you see what he has, when other teams haven't in a way. So you give him more
Yeah.
minutes, right? It's almost like, well, who
I'd
are you
also
guys to play,
consider
right?
swapping because we have the Lakers 57th pick, and then they have their own pick, which is pick 49. So we could also just swap seconds. So they could move down 8 spots, and we could move up a few spots up into the 40s. I think that could make a lot of sense for both teams to throw onto that trade.
Yeah, I would definitely look out for like one of those things, like if it's Harrison Barnes with the first round pick. I mean, Aaron Nesmith in the first round pick, and then some added bonus, even if it's the Celtics being like, hey, look, we'll send over Javonte Green. They probably won't extend him, I think, or Yamadar, And I think with the Javonte Green, it would make sense for the Kings because you need talent, right? So
I don't think it would be anything huge. Like I said, that's basically what I'm expecting. Like draft rights to somebody, or like a second round pick swap, or like you said, Javonte Green. Like nothing massive.
Nothing massive. I think that would be interesting because he just hasn't had a chance to play on that team, and it's almost like if you go to the Kings, you have some sort of opportunity to play, right?
Yeah, we're looking for wings right now.
So it'd be interesting. I think that would definitely work for both teams. We'll see if it happens though, because a lot of people are skeptical of Danny Ainge right now, right? Because every trade
they're
you
always
see,
kind of with his history of just pulling out of moves at the very last second.
yeah, and all you see right now is just like, okay, when's it gonna happen? It's supposedly it should happen in the next like 2 weeks. That's what I heard.
Yeah.
So, and you shouldn't be, yeah, I mean, like you have to kind of move if you're the Celtics.
And it also helps the Kings because we need to re-sign Holmes, and we can't afford to re-sign Holmes if we have both Barnes and Buddy on the roster. So that from that standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. We get a lot of future assets. Like the Celtics pick isn't actually that bad. It's pick 19 right now. So I think it'll be better once they get Barnes. Of course, I think it'll move into the mid 20s, which is why I'm forecasting it like that. And want more assets in a trade like that because obviously they're expected to get better if they acquire Barnes. So.
Oh yeah, I mean they should be around like 22, 23, but who knows?
Yeah.
Honestly, in the NBA right now, so talented that even good teams are losing. Like
Yeah.
the records aren't as perfect as they should be. Like look at the Denver Nuggets in the West. I think they're kind of in the same sort of situation where they're underperforming a little bit, and they're also in position to make a trade.
They're
I think.
definitely in position to make a move right now.
And they have the assets to make a trade. That's the thing with the Denver Nuggets. I'm like, they can make a trade if they want to, man. If they really
I think they could definitely make a move for either Kyle Lowry or like a Buddy Hield or something like that, like another guard.
Buddy Hield would be really interesting.
I think Buddy or Barnes would be interesting. They miss Jeremy Grant's presence. They're a team that could trade for either one of those two.
Okay, and let me go back to that Jeremy Grant and Celtics thing because this happens all the time. People are like, yeah, like Jeremy Grant, Boston Celtics might trade for him. Bro, you had the opportunity to sign him 3 years, $20 million a year, $60 million, right?
Yeah, I don't think the Celtics are going to make a move for Grant. Like I think Ainge being Ainge might actually lead to Barnes being more likely if you think about it, because Ainge might actually try to go to Vucevic. Well, he will try to go to Vucevic and to Grant first, and then those will be like they'll be asking for so many assets, and Ainge will be like, "No, I'm not giving up that many assets," and then he turns to us, and it's like significantly cheaper to get Barnes, and then he looks at that in comparison, and he chickens out of his original move, which was Grant and Vucevic to go for the cheaper Barnes. That might actually make sense as far as like a timeline, but
yeah, because it's almost for Harrison Barnes, he did sign the 4-year, $85 million contract. So he's getting paid 22, 20 next year, 18 the following year. And Jeremy Grant, it's almost broken down. Depending on how you want to break down that contract, it's almost similar. But I feel like
I mean, the
obviously
Celtics would only be getting the 20 and 18 portions of Harrison Barnes' contract, though, right?
exactly. But for Jeremy Grant, for instance, he might be on paper the same, almost the same salary as Harrison Barnes at this point because it is 3 years, um, not including 1920 season where he got paid like 24. Um, so on paper, it's almost like similar numbers, but talent-wise, Jeremy Grant would be worth way more than
Yeah, they'd have to
Harrison Barnes.
expend
They would
way
have
more
to.
assets. Like, they'd
You
have
would
to
have
give, like, 3 firsts or something to get
yeah,
Grant, right?
to get Grant, you would have to. I mean, if I'm Detroit, I'm not budging until I see a couple of picks, maybe like
It's
good player
significantly
in there.
cheaper to get Barnes. You're only going to need 1 first.
Oh yeah, I mean it's the smartest move. I'm just surprised it hasn't been like it's not done yet, So
For sure. I'm
so
definitely surprised. I think honestly, these guys are just trying to bait each other out, and they're just going to wait till the 25th deadline, and then we're going to see all these moves go through. I think since Nets acquired Harden, it's really been, and this is going to be the big storyline the media is going to come with. It's been an arm race in the East. You're going to see Kyle Lowry go to the Philadelphia 76ers eventually
yeah,
for probably a package of Maxey and a pick at a minimum. And then you're going to see Barnes go to the Celtics for probably Neesmith and a pick. And then it's going to be interesting, man. Like they're going to load up and you're going to see kind of a new start from Toronto and Sacramento, probably some new players coming in.
yeah. I like how you said cold. It's like the NBA Cold War. That does make sense. It's like Cuba. It's like fucking
They're all
Russia.
loading up right now with their
United
assets.
States.
Like you're adding Barnes and Harden and Lowry, and the East is just getting talented, man. It's cool.
They're pointing the missiles, at each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that transitions us to another kind of acquisition. Um, but before that, I actually did want to mention the Kyle Lowry thing that gaining momentum, I think, because of, I think Ryan Russillo said it on his podcast, like that Kyle Lowry has been saying that he's going to get traded for like the last month. And then Kyle Lowry just came out and said, like, bro, I don't even talk to you. I don't even know, like, no one talks to me about these things. I haven't said this. So do you think that's,
I mean, did you hear his comments today, though?
do you think he was just trying to like save face? Or do you think that actually did happen?
Today?
I mean, the whole, oh, Kyle Lowry has been saying that he's going to get traded for over like the last month.
I mean, I think his comments to the press today were pretty telling. I'll get them exact. I'll get what he said exactly, but
You could summarize. It's all right.
said Philadelphia will always be a home for me, but Toronto will always be my second home. It's allowed me to grow into the man and player I am today. He also said, I will retire as a Toronto Raptor, 1-day contract. Hey, whatever happens, we'll see in the off season, but he wants to retire a Raptor. I mean, to me, that sounds like Kyle's gone already,
Yeah,
to be
it seems
honest.
like
He says, I will retire as a Toronto Raptor, 1-day contract. Hey, whatever happens. And then he talks about Philadelphia and says, that's my home.
yeah, that's kind of interesting.
Those were comments he made an hour ago, by the way, from us recording.
Juicy.
Yeah, these are like fresh comments that just came out. He just did a media session. So to me, it sounds like Kyle's already gone.
Fresh letters. Okay.
Just from the way he's speaking right now. To me, I think Philly is gonna be the deal with at a minimum Maxey and a first. I think that's probably gonna be it. Like Raptors are gonna see Maxey as like a guy that could step in and eventually develop as the next Lowry, a guy who can play make, defend, really well for his position. Really good transition 3 guy, and just a hard worker with a good attitude. So leadership qualities, to be honest with you. So I think Maxey is a logical replacement. Obviously, he isn't nearly the player Lowry is right now, but the idea would be to develop him into that. So I like the move.
Question number 1: will Kyle Lowry have a statue in Toronto?
Will Kyle Lowry have a statue? Yes, I think he deserves a statue. Absolutely, he's the greatest Raptor of all time. No question.
Question number 2: will teams, because of this comment, because of this what he said, be now like putting together a package for the Toronto Raptors that could sway their decision to send him to Philadelphia if that does happen?
Yeah, I was actually talking about this with some Raptors fans recently, and it seems like there's only a couple teams that make sense. Because the Clippers, it's Denver. The Clippers don't make a lot of sense. I'm just gonna be honest.
They don't have the assets.
They don't have assets. The Heat doesn't make a lot of sense. They don't have assets. So
also,
we're eliminating.
Also, the Heat are so enamored with players that are like mid that it's crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So no, not the Heat. But as for the Nuggets, if they were to send Zeke Naji in a package and a pick, obviously, something with some salary filler. Well, the Raptors were very high on Zeke in the draft process. They gave him like 4 interviews, I believe. So we know that
the Raptors could get they would probably get Barton in that trade. Barton, Zeke.
Or Harris, like someone for salary matching. And then they would get Zeke and a pick. And I think that's a really, really interesting. It's a really, really interesting move for both sides.
Yeah, because that would make the Toronto Raptors kind of rub their chin a little bit, right?
I think so. It would take a lot of time for me to sit and like compare those moves because both are quite good. Maxey does fill a need, but also Zeke fills a need. They're both guys I actually wanted the Raptors to get in the draft. I wanted the Raptors to trade up for another first, and I think they could have easily done that. Sending Norman Powell to Brooklyn instead of Landry Shamet would have been better for both sides. Anyways, we're not going to get into that.
Yeah, I think the Denver Nuggets totally make sense. They have a ton of assets and assets that actually aren't that much money right now, right? So they have a lot of like second round picks that are very valuable right now, and also they have prospects that people are very high on right
Raptors
now,
would
right?
want.
Yeah,
they have prospects that the Raptors would want, and I think
they have like Zeke, they have Bol. You have these assets around it, right? So basically, you know that they're not going to trade Murray, Jokic, and PJ, but players around that are kind of on that wooden plank. Like, hey, look, if you could get Kyle Lowry to Denver and join him up with Murray and Jokic and Michael Porter Jr., I think they'll do it.
Yeah, I think if they can add Lowry to that core, it would make things really interesting for them. But those are really the two places that I could see bringing Lowry home. It's basically going to be the Sixers, or the dark horse would be the Nuggets. I have trouble seeing any other team really biting on Lowry. I just don't know what team would have the assets and also just the cap and just the want, the competitiveness, being a contender. Yeah, I just don't know which team would have the assets to make that move other than those two teams.
There are a ton of variables that go into that. There is also a time window with Kyle Lowry, so it's almost like
it's got to be a contending team.
Yeah, you're gunning for now. It's a top end team with cap, with assets. I think those two teams make sense. They have a lot of assets, and they're a top end team. So Philadelphia or the Nuggets, I wouldn't be surprised either or. I think.
Yeah, I think those are pretty much the two teams that Lowry should be traded to logically. I don't think there's any way he gets to the Clippers. I hope he goes to Philly or Denver. Like that's where I'm at. Like there's also nothing like the Raptors would fuck their future up. Like they'd be shooting their future in the foot, sending him to the Clippers.
They wouldn't do it.
Yeah, there's
going to send back like Lou Williams,
Zubats.
Yeah, I mean the Clippers would probably send Patrick Beverly, maybe like Zoo, whatever second round picks they have left over.
Like it'd be like Zubats and Kennard.
Oh my lord.
That'd be like Lord. Yeah, it'd be pretty bad, man. It'd be pretty rough.
Bro, that Luke Kennard contract is
some Detroit second round picks.
Oh my god, it's just so bad.
Like there's nothing there. There's no reason for the Raptors to do that.
So transitioning into another Eastern Conference team, the Brooklyn Nets acquired Blake Griffin overnight. And the Detroit Pistons basically bought him out, and he signed the veteran minimum for the Brooklyn Nets, which is around $1.2 million. Your reaction to that news?
I mean, I think it's kind of not hugely old news, but I mean, it's If Blake, I've seen Blake dunking in workouts. It looks like he's really trying a lot harder, and he's putting a lot more strain on his body doing it. So I don't know, man. Maybe if Blake can be like 80% of what he was on the Pistons, like the year he brought them to the playoffs, then it's great. It's great. If he can be like even 70% of that, it's fantastic. But I just don't know. I feel like I don't know. I feel like Blake might be done, to be honest.
He's had 7 surgeries, so
Like I think Blake might just be done. Like he looks like even in workouts, he's really pushing himself to get up there when he's jumping. Old Blake, his head would pass the rim, like when he would. He was crazy. He was a Skywalker, but I don't think I saw his head actually pass the rim, like his forehead, like heavily. Like
no,
I think it was more just he was getting up there, functionally being able to dunk. Like
I don't think he could even hit the backboard right now with his hands.
I mean, he was posting videos of him like dunking.
Imagine first game
But
he
it just
comes
looks
out,
difficult for him to get up.
first game he comes out, he just jumps over a Kia and dunks over
Yeah, they just drive it onto the court.
someone drives a Kia onto the court, he just dunks it over. Oh,
Pistons fans are heard screaming from Michigan.
yeah, they would throw bottles at that dude if they allowed any fans in the arena. Do you think he could have been faking? I think there's a percentage of me that thinks that he was kind of like just checked
I
out.
think he was unmotivated. I don't know if he
He
was
was checked
faking.
out.
Yeah, he was checked out, but that's not necessarily faking. He was still trying to a certain extent.
His knees were checked out too. Damn.
Yeah,
You ain't gotta be cold, man.
chill out.
I do think like Blake Griffin, small 5, would work out because he's so strong and he's like such a heavy dude. This is another
Yeah,
player with heavy density. Okay, a lot of density. So
I like the idea of them bringing him on as a small ball center and doing like rocking with Joe Harris and where they do like Kyrie, Harden, Joe Harris, KD, and like Blake. That might be a fun lineup, to be honest. We'll see. That's gonna be like hard not to get scored on every single possession.
yeah, I think he could. I think he could hold his own against like centers, like small ball centers. You know what I mean?
Small ball centers, yeah, but like if you want to, like he's gonna
Yeah,
get killed by Embiid.
yeah. I mean, basically, I think they might carousel him in for the lineup. They'll have some sort of rotation where it's like James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Joe Harris, KD, like Jeff Green and Blake Griffin, or like Claxton and Blake Griffin, or like some combination of the two, right? So at
Yeah,
least you have some size from like 3 to 5. You have KD, Jeff Green, Blake Griffin, or you have KD, Claxton, Blake Griffin, some sort of combination like that, right? Nothing too crazy. I think the luxury of Blake Griffin right now is that he could go to a team where they don't necessarily need him right away. He probably could develop his, conditioning, strength, and then kind of just come in for the playoffs, which is crazy. It's almost like what the Lakers did last year.
yeah. I mean, they're definitely gonna have to get him to buy in.
Oh, and I think that he's already bought in. I think it's just I already knew he was going because of the whole DeAndre Jordan situation. He was there already. He has a connection there. He has a connection to like KD and
If
Kyrie.
Blake buys in, like there's a lot you can do there. Because if Blake buys in and ends up being good, and you can sign him for something cheap back, then if he can play a depth role for you next season, and you can get some of those draft picks, like I think this draft is going to be huge for Brooklyn as well, coming up because it's going to be like their opportunity to do a better job than the Celtics did and not make the same mistake where they draft a bunch of really subpar guys to fill out. Like I think there's a bunch of opportunities to draft a bunch of really good guys in the draft this year for the Nets.
Yeah, it's crazy the whole metamorphosis of the Brooklyn Nets. It really is though. I mean, as a Brooklyn Net fan and as a New Jersey Net fan, basically my whole life, uh, it's crazy where they are right now. It's like it's a huge free agent market that people are like flocking to. People are taking less money from other places to come to Brooklyn. So it's almost like
Yeah,
they are the evil empire in a way. They kind of are. It's crazy.
they really are at this point. They're taking everyone.
Everyone, like all other fans, are like, how are the Nets doing this? I hate the Nets. Why? Like, why is this happening? And who knows? I honestly don't know. I think just the acquisition of Kyrie and KD alone, that changed the whole structure of the organization in a way, the cell structure. Also,
Yeah.
props to Sean Marks. He got like Blake Griffin on the vet men. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man, it's not an easy task, but it definitely helps when you have guys like Kyrie, Harden, and KD on your team.
So
It certainly helps.
I mean, you also have to have the chops, like managerial wise, like as a GM too, right? To
Yeah,
pull
like I
things
think
off.
there was definitely a good opportunity in LA that he had to convince him that Brooklyn was better. So there is that. Because I think the opportunity in LA and the storyline, especially with AD out, might have actually been a little bit better for him. Just because he could really work himself up into the 4 spot there, and even do some small ball 5 stuff when AD comes back, or AD could be the 5. Like it'd be, I don't know. Maybe he could have done something. Obviously, it's a bigger
Yeah.
fuck you to Ballmer. So I think Sean Marks did a good job convincing him not to go to LA if that was the goal.
And yeah, I know a lot of Nets fans now, like new Net fans won't know about Sean Marks and his kind of like he does a lot of like 4D chess moves, right? If you take a look at, I think it was the 2015-2016 season, he matched a lot of contracts for restricted free agents that year, like Tyler Johnson, who they have now. So
Yes.
other teams were forced to sign those players, even though maybe the Nets didn't want them to, which sort of, I mean, Tyler Johnson went to the Miami Heat. He could have came to Brooklyn, but he signed, I think it was like $60 million or $50 million tender. So the Heat matched that, and it didn't work out in Miami for him. So it was almost like you're kind of messing around with your rival teams. Also, having Sean Marks did the same thing with Otto Porter Jr. in Washington when he was on the Wizards. He did the same kind of move. Wizards matched it. It didn't work out for Otto Porter Jr. there. So
Yeah.
he also did it with Alan Crabb, which is crazy. So he's done a lot of moves that sort of, it's almost like gambling in a way, and it's worked out for him in the long run. So if it wasn't for Sean Marks and Kenny Atkinson, I don't know where the Brooklyn Nets would be, in all honesty.
R.I.P. Kenny, man. The Nets did him dirty. Sorry.
Yeah, no,
But
I mean,
it's true.
I'm a big Kenny Atkinson fan. He's a great coach for developing players. I know I've badmouthed Steve Nash in the past, but he has gotten better over the season. Gradually, he has gotten better. We held his hand for a good 2 months, and now he's actually learning how to ride a bike. So that's exciting.
That's
You know?
definitely big.
Yeah,
It's definitely what you want.
definitely what I mean, that's good. I mean, that means he's not a smooth brain and he knows how to adapt.
Yeah.
So the opposite of Luke Walton, basically.
Yeah, pretty much, honestly.
Pretty much.
But I mean, the thing that, honestly, yeah. But like, the thing with Luke Walton is
What do you think will
he's
happen?
great to tank. He's gonna lose you games. Like, who else is gonna play Kojo 34 minutes and lose you this stupid ass game? This is perfect for the tank. Like, we need this man. Our schedule is actually pretty light. Like, we have one of the easier schedules coming up in the league, so we really need Luke to pull in. We need to sell on Barnes, and we need to right the ship to this tank.
It is funny seeing like just people on Twitter or just people in the media kind of asking why Luke Walton is still the coach and then you see like, Sacramento Kings fans being like, no, we need him as a coach, believe me.
Like, we actually do. Like, this draft is important.
He's the perfect coach for this position, right? Like,
if we fired Luke and got Alvin Gentry, like, I think you have to pay a bonus to like get an interim coach.
You would win
in the first place. And you would win like 2-3 more games. Yeah, you wouldn't win that many more.
You would win way more games than 2 or 3. I'm telling you, you would win at least 10 more games.
It's just not what you want. Alvin Gentry's not great either, but it's just we wouldn't be a playoff team. That's the point. We wouldn't be a playoff team. We would just make our lottery standing worse. So
what's gonna happen, right? Like, as soon as the Kings finish their last game, right? Halliburton puts up a shot. They're losing by like 25.
I actually don't think he's going to get fired that quickly either.
Let me visualize it for you. Halliburton shoots a 3-pointer, makes it in. The game ends. They're down by 24, right? So they're going to the buses. Everyone's walking, head down. They got their headphones on. They don't want to talk to anyone. Then management sees Luke Walton getting on the bus. One of the top brass puts an forearm on his shoulder, and is like, hey, look, you're gonna ride separate today. And Luke Walton's like, what do you mean? It's like, well, we ordered you an Uber X. Luke Walton's like, what? I didn't order an Uber X. And then they're like, don't worry, it's on us. We're paying. And we even tipped them 20%. And he's like, oh, thank you. Is this to the hotel? And they're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So he takes the Uber X, free water, free gum, the works. Shield, a little like COVID shield, mask, everything.
Splendid. Perfect.
He arrives at the Hilton hotel. There's another Uber X, and he's like, what the hell? And then he sees all his luggage there, and he's like, what the hell's happening right now? And he's like, okay, well, this is my hotel. And they're like, yeah, we're driving you to the airport now. He's like, yeah, but like I got my conditioner up there. And they're like, oh no, don't worry about your conditioner. We got your conditioner. Don't worry about that. Just get it. Just get in the Uber X. They get into the Uber X. In the Uber X, they give him a call. They're like, Luke, you're fired. He goes to the airport, goes on the flight. He goes wherever he lives. I don't know where he lives, probably like Montana or some shit. And, he sits down in his empty ass like house. He takes a look at his like Halliburton picture in his wallet, and just tears start flowing down his face, and that's it.
Pressing, man.
That's the end of Luke Walton's coaching career in the NBA.
I honestly think we'll wait like a couple weeks right before the draft before doing it, because I mean, as soon as if we get a top 5 pick, like it's going to really open up the coaching market for us. Like everyone's going to be like, ooh, Sacramento has a open spot, and like Jalen Green / Jonathan Kuminga / Jalen Suggs / whoever, Cade Mobley, whoever is on this team is also on this team with a core of Halliburton and Bagley and Fox. Like those 4 guys together, like, that's really exciting. I want to go coach. I at least that's my thinking. Like when you saw, there was a lot more people interested in the Pelicans job when Zion was there. Like when it was open, and then Zion was like confirmed a Pelican.
If the Sacramento Kings like get the first pick or something, some crazy shit happens, and they get Cade, bro, that list is gonna be long.
Yes, sir. I'm very excited to come back next week.
Subscribe to the pod on iTunes, on Stitcher. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Visit the website, thecourtsiders.com. I'm your host, Eric. Dimitri. It's been a pleasure.
Peace out, guys.
Have a good night.